welcome back to Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
Thanks for joining us again. I apologize, I've been a little under the weather for the past week. You can probably tell through my stuffy sinus
A little
voice.
Little bit. Are you better?
I'm on the upswing for sure, but it really knocked me on my ass for a couple of days, which is weird. I mean, it was just like a sinus thing. But I haven't been sick in a long time, though.
I was going to say, if it's been a while, especially, we've all been masked, so we've been
masked and sanitized and all of that.
Yes, exactly. I was going to actually apologize myself because this morning I had to do a Zoom meeting, and I realized as soon as that it was my turn to talk on the Zoom, my nose just let down. And I was like, perfect, Valerie. So my nose is running on this Zoom meeting, and I didn't have any tissues with me. Yeah. So it's I'm professionally wiping my face with. So I was going to apologize that I might be sniffing a lot during this. So in general, Valerie and Sammy are going to be snot rags during this episode.
Fall season.
Yeah, I think it's because I turned on my heat. And I think it's blowing dust.
Stuff.
I think that's what my issue is that it's drying the air out. Plus it's a little dusty from turning the heat on for the first time.
Yeah.
I apologize, listeners.
Yes, we both do.
I want to apologize for one more thing. Mm-hmm. I broke my glasses when I was in Michigan. I haven't fixed them yet. So these are my old pair. So, they're a little blurry for me. So I have a glasses repair kit I found when I went digging through my SM bag, my stage manager's kit. And I found one. I was like, yay. Mm-hmm. But my eyes are so bad. Even with these glasses, I can't fix it.
You can't see to fix it.
I can't see to fix it. And I dropped 2 of the screws into the carpet. And they're gone. Even feeling around Braille style, I can't find the screws. So I'm like,
well, don't you have another pair? They're clear pair?
I do. I was using them this morning, and that's actually pretty good. Huh. Well, they didn't seem to be working that well for me this morning, but now I'm like, oh, look, I don't have to keep looking you don't have to keep looking up my nose for me to see you. All right. Contrary to my belief, they actually do work.
So can you believe that this is the halfway point of season 2?
No, I can't. I'm in shock. It's flying by.
I know. I was just like, oh, it's still the beginning. It's like, no, it's.
It does kind of feel like we're still we got to get going again.
I know. So I'm going to make this ask in the front of the episode rather than the back of the episode because people are still kind of tuning in. But if for our halfway of season 2 anniversary, if I could ask our loyal listeners to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, a nice little review if you liked us. If you didn't like us, please don't leave a review. You can let us know somewhere else, but please don't leave us a review.
It takes a lot to get rid of one bad review.
Well, it never goes away, but
to diminish it, I should say.
Yes. Then. But if you are enjoying what you're hearing, then we would greatly appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts. It would really help a lot, get us somewhere in the vicinity of being seen.
Yeah. If you're so inclined, there's also Podchaser.
Oh, yes.
That you can find us on there.
Yeah, there's a few others that allow reviews. But because Apple Podcasts is the biggest one, that's the one that is most helpful at this moment in time. So if you could do that, we would greatly appreciate it. And thank you in advance.
Yep. And thank you to everybody who has left us stars and left us reviews. Those are 2 separate things, by the way.
Yes,
you can leave a review and stars, or you can just leave stars.
Yes.
If you're shy.
And that's
we'll take it all.
Yep, exactly. And without further ado, shall we?
We shall.
Right. Season 2, Episode 11, Playthings. Remember your imaginary childhood friend? Bet your buddy wasn't anything like an angelic little girl's invisible playmate, a hoodoo demon with an unearthly aptitude for murder. Written by Matt Whitten and directed by Charles Beeson. 2 newbies as far as I can tell.
I think you're right.
Now, I have a question for you. You always say this to me, but the first time I watched this episode, I was really, really out of it. Like, all up on, like...
your cold meds?
Yes, the drugs were altering my mind. Did this to you seem a little off? Like, I don't know if the timing and or the writing and or the general atmosphere of the episode.
It felt like they changed gears without using the clutch a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a different. I mean, I don't want to say atmosphere because you just said that, but yeah, it changed speeds. It changed directions. The characters of the boys changed a little bit, from the direction that they were just heading in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say it did change, and it was abrupt. It wasn't.
Okay, so it wasn't exactly the drugs talking to me, being like.
No, it was. I mean, it tried to be
weird.
Yeah, it tried to be like a standalone. But we couldn't continue with the way things left with Sam saying Ava.
Yeah. Even
though they kind of did try to do that.
Yeah.
That storyline wasn't continued in this one, and it was so abrupt the way they did it. It was like, all right, I guess yes, I noticed that as well.
Okay,
I wouldn't have said anything because I just kind of put it to the back of my head. But because you mentioned it, yes.
Cool. All right, so the recap was essentially just the previous episode wrapped up in like a minute and a half. Yeah, there was nothing new, and there was no real foreshadowing of what this episode was going to be. It's the same stuff. No. So then when we get to the teaser, it opens up on a super creepy inn.
It's kind of dusk. It's dark, but not totally dark out. It's kind of wet and foggy.
Yeah, and it's really old-fashioned.
Yeah, like a Victorian manor almost. Like if they didn't have that sign out front that said Pierpont Inn, I would have been like, oh, it's a mansion.
It is actually a mansion. In Vancouver, it's like a mansion that they used for this.
Nice.
This episode.
But I still can't see it as like they kept calling it a hotel.
Yeah.
And I was like, this does not. Hotel is not the word for this.
Well, it kind of reminded me of. Have you ever been inside of the Lotus Club? Do you remember the Christmas party that Nico had that one year?
Yeah.
Inside of that fancy mansion? That's kind of what that is. It's a mansion. It's not nearly as big as this one.
Right.
But it's a mansion from, the 1900s at some point that they turned into a hotel.
Right. Oh, the Lotus Club. Yes.
Yeah. And even the bar scene that we'll see later.
Yes.
There's a room in the Lotus Club that is like the spitting image of that almost.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this just screams The Shining.
Yeah, I think that there were a couple of mentions of things that I read that there was like some homages to The Shining from this.
Yeah, I mean, haven't
seen. All right, so in this mansion/hotel, a moving guy is there. He's commenting on, like, wow, I can't believe you're selling this place. It's been around forever. My whole family, extended and otherwise, got married here.
Yeah.
There are 2 little girls up on the top of the stairs who are upset that this moving guy is there. They're like, oh no, they're going to take all our toys.
Yeah. One of the girls is like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Cute little call out to Dean. And the mom's like, hey, watch your mouth.
Well,
and of course,
they both say it.
They both say it?
It's important to point out. The curly-headed one says it first, and then the straight-haired one says it second.
Says it, and the mom's like, hey, watch your mouth. And of course it turns into, well, she said it first.
Yeah.
Both of you watch your mouths.
Yeah. So then later, the straight-haired one named Tyler is playing in this really cool, fancy dollhouse in her, it's kind of like a playroom. And she sets down a boy doll, a guy doll, in a rocking chair and goes to say goodnight to a couple of the other dolls in a different room.
And then goes back for the man doll that she had just put in the rocking chair.
Uh-huh.
And it's gone.
Yep.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And so she kind of looks around in the dollhouse for, where did I just put this other doll? And she finds it on the lower floor, like at the bottom of a staircase with its head twisted around.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this can't be good. Two things can't be good. One,
Right.
how did the doll get there? Two, its head's twisted around backwards. And she picks it up. She's like, huh.
Yeah, not a lot of reactions going on with this little girl.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, And is that when she hears like her mom scream?
Yeah.
So you hear this like blood curdling scream. And again, not a huge reaction from the little girl, but she's like, stands up. She goes to outside the room to the banister and is looking down the flight of stairs, and her mom's on the phone, I'm assuming talking to the police. And the delivery guy who was just talking about how, sad it is that she's having to sell this hotel is at the bottom of the stairs laying on what I would assume is his face, but it's not because his head is also twisted 180 degrees.
Yes.
There's blood pooling onto the floor. There's broken dolls. Like he must have been carrying a box of dolls down the stairs. And his mouth is still like...
Yes, his jaw is still moving.
Like guppying like that. But there's no reaction from the little girl. She's just like,
Yeah, her eyes widen just a little bit, but for the most part, it's just...
That's it. Title screen.
Yeah.
Did you look at have you seen
I saw what you sent me. Sorry I didn't respond. I was
that's okay.
really out of it, but I was like, oh yeah, those are definitely teeth that you sent me. And I tried again to pause it, but I couldn't. So I think, I don't know, maybe not like quick enough on the the thing, because I can't go frame by frame.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to point out. Yay! So this episode clearly is going to have dolls in it.
Yeah.
I've never liked dolls, and it's not because I've been creeped out by them. I was just never a play with dolls kind of kid. And even though, like, I remember one of my friend's mothers got me some dolls and said to me for my birthday, these are your dolls. I'm going to start your collection. And she thought she was doing a nice thing by getting me, a set of dolls to start with. And I was like, gee, thanks. Never played with them. I mean, I kept them because they were a gift and they were actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I don't like dolls. Now I don't like them because of all the horror movies I've seen.
Yeah. I played with Barbies, but I didn't really play with like porcelain dolls like that. But my grandma, on my mother's side, she had some porcelain dolls around. Not that many.
That was too many.
That's too many, but she did have some scattered around. In fact, this whole house reminded me a lot of my grandmother.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't a mansion by any means, but some of the decor that was around.
Yeah, just that, I don't want to say Victorian over and over again, but there's a style. There's a definite style that definitely is an older taste.
Yeah.
So Sam and Dean are still in Peoria looking for Ava.
He's just getting off the phone with Ellen saying, talking about Ava. They've got like the wall of pinned up things, including research. Ava's missing poster. And then he comments, Ellen does not have anything, but she does have a job for us in Cornwall, Connecticut. Dean is a little surprised that he would want to do something else other than looking for Ava because he's been blaming himself so much about Ava.
Right.
But Sam A needs a distraction, and B does not want others to die off while he's being so focused on Ava.
Right. But we need to save as many people as possible.
Right. But he does mention we've been looking for a month now. He's still got a cast on.
Still got a cast. I wrote it down. Still in a cast.
2 months later, he's got a cast on? If they have indeed been looking for a month?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a long arm, that's got to be healed. That's a lot of bone. He's a big guy. I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was like, it was weird that a month later they are still like so focused on Ava that they haven't gotten to this point earlier.
Yeah, a month seems a long time for them to have not found anything.
Yeah, and they were also talking about it as if it had just happened a week ago. like that was kind of the
disconnect.
Yeah, the urgency that I felt there was just like, this just happened like not too long ago. We're still like looking with this much vigor. in a month in. I don't know. I feel like that was like a weird thing that they just threw in for whatever reason. I don't know. But
yeah, why make it sound like they've been working that hard and for that long?
Yeah.
To just be like, well, all right, let's go look at something else.
Yeah.
Ellen told them about this hotel where a woman drowned in the bathtub, which we didn't see. But then a delivery guy fell down the stairs, which we did see. Sounds like a job for us. And Dean is surprised because he's like, I thought you'd be like more angsty,
Yeah,
more mopey and like looking out the window while it rains. But all right, let's go do something different. I want to say I love the motel they're in. Again, it's almost like they were in the exact same motel before that had the blue wallpaper, except this time it's orange wallpaper.
Yeah.
Because the pattern looked the same. Set decorators are on a roll with the blue and silver or orange and silver.
Yeah. So then they approach this hotel in Connecticut, which is a complete 180 from these motel rooms that they've been staying at lately.
Right.
And Dean is way excited about it. He's like, oh my God, this is like an actual old school haunted house case.
Yeah. He's so excited.
I never get to do this.
They even like call out their own show, it's like the fog and a spooky house and it's dark, secret passageways. Hope we run into, Scooby and Daphne. Which little does he know.
Right, I know. But Jesus, Horn Dog Dean can't even like keep it in his pants for a cartoon character. Good Lord. I'm sure that was every teenage boy
exactly
in that time.
Exactly. So as they're walking up to the front door of this hotel, Sam notices a symbol in one of the urns, like one of the pots outside. And I wanted to say, good eye, Sam, because I wouldn't have seen that.
No.
And it looked like just like 5 little dots and a cross or something.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the 5 side of a die, but with lines connecting in the middle.
Like a cross,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, and what's he called? A quincest? A quincunce.
A quincunce?
Oh. TZ. TZ.
No, X. Quincux.
Oh, okay. What does it mean? An orderly or organized universe is what it symbols, like
in real life, you mean, or in the? Yeah, I think so. I just looked up to see if it did have anything to do with hoodoo, and I couldn't really find anything beyond the websites that are specifically about supernatural.
Yeah, it wasn't a specifically hoodoo symbol, but it is a universal symbol.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a real thing.
And so, but they deduce that it is a hoodoo symbol. Mm-hmm. And they're like, all right, maybe it is.
Yeah. All right.
Here we go. So once inside, the hotel owner is like outrageously incorrectly identifies Sam and Dean as gay antiquers. That one cracked me up. And the fact that Dean was so
offended
hurt almost.
Yeah, I wouldn't say offended like that makes him sound with that. Yeah, that makes him sound like he's a homophobe, which he does kind of sometimes carry those tendencies just a touch, but I wouldn't say that's what his reaction was. He was just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, like
of all the things in life he has to worry about, this isn't one of them.
Yeah, how does me and my brother, my real life brother, come off as gay? That's concerning.
Well, yeah, but Sam thinks he's got it. He's like, well, you're butch. Maybe she thinks you're overcompensating.
He says that later.
So he pays for the hotel room with a stolen credit card with the name Mr. Mayorgoff. Mahagoff, which is I looked it up in the Urban Dictionary. It's slang for needing some alone time. Oh.
And they check into room 237.
There's The Shining all over again.
Because isn't that the room? Isn't that the room that Dean was in the hospital?
That wasn't Dean's room. It was the room that Eric Kripke, Dr. Kripke, was called to.
Oh, okay.
When that other girl was passing.
Okay, but it was in that episode.
Yes. Yes, but it's also the scary room where bad things happen in The Shining. So they check into the hotel. Woman behind the counter dings the bellhop ding, ding, and out comes this old bellhop guy. I was like, really? This poor guy should not be schlepping people's bags up to their rooms.
Yes, particularly since he's just like dragging it across the floor.
Conk, conk, conk up the stairs, and it's like Dean's bag of weapons.
Right. Good old Sherwin.
Yeah, Dean's like, I could take that for you. Nope, nope.
Nah,
Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't do it.
But
and then he's like, hand out for a tip. I was like, hunters are notoriously bad tippers.
But both him, whose name is Sherwin, and the owner, whose name is Susan, they both together say, oh, this place has been around forever, but the guests aren't really coming in like they used to, so we've had to sell the place. And Dean is like, gee, I wonder why, when he looks at the decor in his room. It's like an old ratty wedding dress, like pinned to the
nailed
wall.
to the wall. I like that he beat me to it. I literally was like, what the, just as he says, what the, beat me to it.
And then sits down on the bed, and it's like, the mattress probably has not been changed in 130 years. They both find out that all of the victims are connected to the sale of the house or moving out of the house, something that's, getting rid of it or moving
a
out.
Realtor or moving stuff out. Yeah, has that maybe that's what's running people off.
So then they go off to find clues, I guess, and then shortly they do find one.
That was my next question. I was like, they knock on the door that says private.
Well, but they were just walking, and then Sam finds the second quincux in a vase somewhere, the 5-spot thing, and they're like, okay, so there definitely is a lot of hoodoo going on. I'm not sure why they decided
why
to
did they
knock on the
her door. Yeah, I guess maybe they were just knocking on a door to see if there was anybody in there, so they could go in,
probably
to snoop around. But it turns out there is somebody in there. It's Susan, the owner. Dean does his creepy question asking, like a little too, he like creepily asks creepy questions, because when she opens the door to that room, that's the doll room that the little girl was playing in, that Tyler was playing in. Dean sees all these dolls, and he's like, ooh, can we come in and look at your dolls? Oh, my brother. And he does it. He totally throws Sam under the bus again, just like he did in Hookman, when he's like, oh, Sam loves to paint, when that kid was painting his body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, oh, my brother Sam loves dolls.
And he just goes on and on and on and on. This was I felt like this was payback, because it was just like a few minutes before this that Sam was like, well, you are Butch, so maybe they think you're overcompensating for something.
Yes, absolutely. But it also was just typical of Dean, because he did the exact same thing earlier, in that previous episode.
And poor Sam just had to be like, yep, I love them. It's true.
I love dolls. I love to dress them up. So while Susan, I don't know why, but she lets him into the room, even after that creepy little display. And so they're looking around at the dolls, and I love that Dean is like, nope, not super creepy at all. But Sam is still on a mission. I feel like Sam's been on a mission this entire time. Like he wasn't affected by their room. He wasn't affected by the wedding dress on the wall or the creepy decorations. He's like on a mission to find out what's going on. And he goes and he sees the model house, the model that the little girl was playing dolls in. And he's like, is this a model of the hotel? And and Susan says, yeah, it's an exact replica.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to the crew for this, because I'm not quite sure if it was props or set or maybe a little bit of both. But they made this house.
Oh, they did?
They did. They went to go, like the creative team went to go commission it somewhere, because since this mansion is a real thing, they like asked people in Los Angeles, like, hey, can you make a replica, like a miniature replica of this? And the quotes were like over $30,000 to do.
Oh my gosh.
And so then they were complaining, they're like, man, what are we going to do? Then the crew guys were like, you know what? Let's give this a shot.
And they did.
And they did. And it looks amazing.
It even had working lights on the inside.
Yeah.
There were working fans. I mean, it was the detail inside that little dollhouse. And I say little. Yes. It was not little. I mean, this took up,
Yeah.
half a ping pong table, I would
Yeah.
say, if not. That's how couldn't imagine what scale that was. But yeah, it was amazing. It looked great. So yay, shout out. Props to the props and set and
whoever else. But also then they had to like rig it in order to do all the creepy things that, it
That
ends
end
up
up
doing
happening, yeah.
and filming inside of it. So I was very impressed. My mother is a big miniatures person, and she's built a few dollhouses in her time. So
I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't do them, but I know how intimate she gets with them.
Wow. Sam, who's on this mission for, clues and stuff, is looking at the dollhouse, and he finds the
Twisty head doll.
Twisty head. Yeah, I was like, I almost said the milkman, because it looks like a milkman, the little doll. But it's the delivery guy with his head twisted on backwards. And he's like, huh, looks like your doll is broken.
Yeah, his head is twisted around.
Yeah. And the mom's like, oh, it must have been Tyler playing with it. And just then Tyler walks in. And Sam's like, your doll's broken. Do you want me to fix it? And she's like, well, I didn't break the doll. How did they get to Maggie?
She came in and so Tyler comes in and she's like, Maggie's being mean to me. So then mom says, well, tell her I said to be nice. And then Sam questions, is like, why'd you break your doll? She's like, I didn't do it. Oh, maybe Maggie did it. No, Maggie didn't do it. Grandma would be furious if we broke her dolls.
Her doll. So cut to Grandma, this woman who's sitting in a wheelchair in a semi-darkened room, looking out the window. It's raining, of course. And so we're assuming this is Grandma, Grandma Rose.
Yeah, not mysterious at all. This whole vibe.
Not psycho at all.
Especially how short Susan gets when Sam is trying to be like, oh, I would love to talk to her about her doll collection.
Right.
And Susan's like, no,
she's not feeling well. She's not seeing visitors. Okay. So I'm sure at this point, Sam and Dean have been kind of ushered out of the room. That's the end of the discussion. So now Dean's kind of focused too. It's like, okay, we got to research Grandma. We got to figure out who Grandma is. I'm going to go look around for other hoodoo things. You look up Grandma on the computer and see if there's any other people she's whacked off. And he's like, but no porn. He still won't let Sam live down being caught looking at porn in that hotel.
Not Children the kind of whacking off that I mean.
Right. Poor Sam. He's like, never gonna live this down.
No.
So next thing we see Susan, who's back down working the front desk again, I thought, is signing papers. And there's a guy there who apparently is part of the business of selling the hotel, because she asks him, she says, so what kind of changes are you going to make? Like, what are the renovations going to be? And he says, oh, didn't they tell you? We're not renovating. We're demolishing this building. And she's taken aback by that. She's like, oh, okay.
And then we cue back to Tyler, who's back in her playroom. She's playing Tea Party and humming a little song. And behind her, the dollhouse is moving by itself. It shows a scene in one of the rooms where a man doll is sitting on the bed, and it's an exact mirror image of the real developer. I kept calling him a developer. I don't think he is, but sitting on a suit. Yeah, sitting on his bed, staring into space.
Random.
Yeah. And then the dollhouse door opens by itself. So does the real door behind him.
Yep.
And then Tyler, probably her spidey senses tingling, she stands up, and looks behind her, but she sees the doll being hung from the ceiling fan. And then we see, of course, the guy in the suit
hanging from his ceiling fan. Yeah. She was singing, like she was humming to herself that whole time. And I thought she was humming, it's raining, it's pouring. It was kind of that. And all I could think of, because I kept hearing the end part of it, which is went to bed, bumped his head, couldn't get up in the morning. That's what I kept hearing. She doesn't say it, but that's a and I was like, ooh, nice creep factor.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what song she was humming. So then Sam and Dean separately, Sam from the hotel room and Dean from down on the main floor with Susan, they both see a body being loaded up into
the coroner's van.
Yeah. So then Dean asks what happened, and Susan is like, maid went in and found him hanging from the ceiling. You keep getting bad luck like this.
A lot of bad luck. Yeah.
So if you want to go, I understand. And, Dean was like, no, I don't scare that easy.
But he's like super motivated now.
Yes.
He is like...
And he bursts into his room with this like energy of just like, man, we gotta go. And he's ready to like load up the weapons and the books and all that, okay.
He doesn't notice like Sam, who's just sitting in a chair in the room, like completely slouched down.
Yeah.
All mopey. I mean, like 100% mope.
All mopey Sam. Mm-hmm. Dean's like barking out orders. We're like, you get this and I'll get this, and then we're gonna go do this, and Sam's just like, you're bossy.
What?
Which he is.
He's like, you're bossy and you're short. And I love this. Dean says, are you drunk? And Sam says, yep.
And then there's a lot going on here, and it's masked by the humor of, a drunken person.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he is upset, to put it lightly.
Another person has died.
That another person has died, and that he couldn't save because he believes with his whole heart that the more people he can save, the more he can offset this evil thing, yes, as he says, his destiny, but he fears so much that he is going to, in fact, turn into something evil. The more good deeds he can do, the more he can stave off the evilness.
His impending evil, yeah.
And he's starting to think, Dad was right. Maybe you should kill me. You have to promise that if I turn, that you, meaning Dean, will kill me. You have to do it. You're the only one who can. And Dean, he's like, Dad's an ass. He shouldn't have given this responsibility to me.
Yeah.
Correct.
But he's also like, please don't ask this of me. Don't put this on me.
Yeah.
And Sam is relentless. He's like, no, you have to promise me. And Dean relents.
He does, I think, because he's like, okay, he's drunk. He's not going to remember this. Yeah.
Right.
Like, fine, I promise. Okay, go to bed.
Go to bed. Literally, and just like flops him down on his face. But did you notice that Sam was actually crying during all that?
Yeah.
He had tears running down his face, which I was like, oh God, he's so broken. Initially, when the camera first panned to him still in the chair when he was like, you're bossy. For a second, I thought he was possessed. I thought like something in the room had taken over him because of how un-Sam he was.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, oh, what did the room do to him? Look out, Dean, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
I also love that this is also when Dean trying to just get Sam into bed is like, come on, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Which is actually Jensen's nickname for Jared.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cute.
And then it cues just a touch of that, I've been calling it the brotherly love music. That music that's like da 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 da.
Yeah. Yep. I thought it was interesting in Sam's I don't want to say belligerence, but in his insistence upon, Dean having to kill him. He says, watch out for me. And Dean says, I always watch out for you. And Sam's like, no, watch out for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to happen. And the second you see it, watch out. This is, And I was like, oh, gosh.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I mean, the both of them. I mean,
I know.
Dean leaves Sam to his drunken, passing out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I guess we're not hunting anything tonight. That's
Not
fine.
tonight. And heads down to the bar himself, which is, again, you described this hotel in New York, the Lotus Club. This scene is straight up out of The Shining again.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the one that they said was an homage to the Shining.
Yeah, straight up. Bartender, the telling of stories, all that.
And I loved,
great.
I know, I loved the scene because the old guy Sherman, he pours Dean a drink, and they're both kind of sharing a tumbler full of whiskey because what the hell else are you gonna do? There's no guests, so might as well get drunk with the guest that's there. and then Dean asks him, "Oh man, I'd love to hear some stories," and I love this line.
Yes.
The guy says, "Boy, you should never say that to an old man."
Yep. Tell me some stories.
That was so cute. I don't know.
Yes. He's kind of all-knowing, this guy.
Yeah.
And he does. He starts telling stories. most of which we don't hear. But the next thing we see is Sherwin is like showing Dean around the house and pointing to pictures and telling stories about, you know, these are the people that used to live in this house. And they come across a picture of Rose, Grandma Rose, as a little girl. And so that starts some stories. You know, he pulls out a picture of, I think it's Grandma Rose and her nanny.
Yes. And not this photo, but the one that's right in front of it, those two little cherubs that it kind of...
What the hell?
It looks like Dean is pointing to that, you know, and being like, who's that? My grandmother had those photos in her house.
Okay, because I wrote down, what is the cherub with the bow and arrow? There's like two pictures of those cherubs with bows and arrows, which I'm assuming is Cupid, but in the picture, I thought that's what he was looking at.
Because
who is this child?
Yeah, because the actual photo that they're talking about is like hidden directly behind. Like you can't even really see it.
Yeah.
But no, my grandmother had those two, and they were bigger. She had them like 16 by 24, I think, but they were hanging up in her bedroom.
And is it just cherubs with bows and arrows?
So I looked it up because I was like, okay, is this a famous thing then? Because, you know, I looked at those photos my whole life, you know, because we lived with her for a while.
Famous babies.
Yeah. So it was by a photographer named M.B. Parkinson. And this is kind of the only thing that he, like, achieved fame for. They were just, like, a kid that he used to babysit, and then he made these black and white photos of him.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Cupid Awake, I think, or Cupid Asleep, or maybe it's both. But some stores started to put these photos in photo frames just in the store, like old 5 and dimes. They put them in the frames. And people were buying the frames just for those photos.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like kind of the Friends episode where Phoebe has like, it's like, oh, this is my father at a graduation. Here's him at another graduation. Here's him at another graduation. Here's him at a wedding. And it's just like the stock photos that come in. So that's kind of what that was. It was like a quote unquote stock photo, but people like, oh, this is so cute. And then they bought them and put them around.
So my question is, did your grandmother buy the frames or the photo in the frames?
I'm not sure, to be honest. And she's dead, rest in peace, so I can't ask her.
Oh God. Because that did take me back for a second. I was like, why does that baby have weapons? And I thought that's what Dean was pointing to. It was like, who's this kid with the weapons?
It took me back too, but for a different reason.
So instead, Sherwin reaches behind that picture of the cherubs and pulls out a frame photo of Rose and her nanny.
Yeah, her nanny Marie.
Nanny Marie, who Dean notices is wearing
that 5 spot around her neck.
You. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to say it wrong.
Right.
And Dean's like, aha, there's the hoodoo.
Yes, because Sherwin says she took better care of her than her mother did, or they were closer than her own mother was, something like that.
Yeah, spent more time with her.
Yes,
yeah.
And then he touchingly puts that photo like on the centerpiece of the fireplace mantle. Like,
yeah, that was really nice.
Just a nice, like a slow, like, oh, this deserves a little place of honor in the last
and why was it hidden behind that?
Yeah.
So the next morning, we see Sam barfing.
Nursing a tequila hangover, which is probably the worst of hangovers, at least in my personal experience. Everyone has their own evil liquor, you know.
Yep. I won't tell you. I've told you mine. It doesn't need to be repeated on the podcast. But yeah, poor Sam. Head down on the toilet, just barfing away.
Dean making it worse.
That's what brothers do. With a quote from the movie Weird Science, which is I have a remedy for that. Yeah, it's what does he say? A greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray, which is directly out of that movie.
So they deduce that Nanny Marie taught Rose hoodoo, and that is what is conspiring here. And so they decide now is the time to talk to Rose, but not before Sam brushes his teeth.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how close Dean was standing to him. I would have been like nowhere near that bathroom. nowhere near that open bathroom door, let
No.
alone standing next to Sam. With
Poor
that
little Sam.
barf breath.
I wrote down puppy Sam just because I think I was just like, oh, you little thing.
Oh, poor thing.
So then they go off into that same room that says private.
They break in.
Yes, because no one is answering. So I think that you were right in your question
Initial.
of like maybe they were just trying to see if no one was there.
Yep.
So they break in. There is a room within that room, or at least a door within that room that leads into another floor.
Yeah.
So it's like
Talk about hidden passages.
Yeah.
That's what Dean was talking about in the beginning. He's like, ooh, hidden passages.
It's like, are they keeping Grandma in the attic?
They are
Jesus.
keeping Grandma in the attic. Because they go up like a flight and a half of stairs, down a hallway, and there she is.
Just sitting in a chair all by herself, staring at the window.
Yeah. And I told, when they did this, when the camera did this whole like zoom in on Grandma, I was like, oh, it's a dead woman. That's what I told. I thought it was Psycho. I thought it was 100% Psycho, and it was just going to be a skeleton of this woman.
Yeah, because they didn't show her face in the first shot of her. It was just like a silhouette of an old woman in a rocking chair or wheelchair. Yeah. So then they approach Grandma Rose, who is alive. She's alive. Just
and I thought it was going to be either she was dead or it was going to be a jump scare moment like they did in Something Wicked This Way Comes, when Dean snuck up on that woman in the hospital room that like scared the crap out of him. That's what I thought this was going to be.
Right.
Either she's dead or Dean's going to poop himself.
Right. She is awake, but not really speaking. But then Sam notices
she's not communicating. She's probably had a stroke.
Yes. So because Hoodoo is so hands-on, needing to like build altars and
do the herbs and the different concoctions.
It's very handsy.
Yep.
She's probably not the one that's been doing this.
Right.
And no,
unless she's faking.
Yes, and no, Sam will not let Dean poke her with the stick.
He wanted to. He's like, maybe. So should we take a second, because we've mentioned hoodoo a couple of times, because they've always said hoodoo and not voodoo. And I just want to make sure that people know that there is a difference between the two. No,
they do say sometimes hoodoo or voodoo things going on. They usually just stick to hoodoo, like
in
this
episode. I think in this episode, everything they've said has been hoodoo.
Yes, but I think you're right. But in the past, they do sometimes say maybe it's hoodoo or voodoo.
Yes.
So they do differentiate that it is two different things. But in this one, they've just stuck to hoodoo.
Just stuck to hoodoo. So I just wanted, for my own clarification, I just wanted to make sure that I knew that they specifically were talking about hoodoo. So voodoo is a religion, is a practicing religion. This is simplified, of course.
Yeah.
And hoodoo is actually the result of religious persecution and suppression. So it's more of a spiritual, like folk magic, as opposed to a practiced religion. So those are the differences there. One's a religion, one is a belief and spirituality.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So that helped me, because my idea of voodoo is only
is whitewashed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's whitewashed, and it's amplified by what you see in the movies.
Exactly.
And on TV. Yeah. It's always chicken bones and dark evil stuff.
No, I agree, and I didn't know there was a difference either. I guess I kind of thought that there was because of the past mentions of it's either hoodoo or voodoo.
Dean does not get to poke.
Yes. All that to say, Dean doesn't get to poke her with a stick.
With a stick.
And then Susan catches them.
Of course. And is like, get out.
Yeah, get out or I'm calling the cops. And they don't even argue.
Yep.
They just kind of
rightly so. They're like, yep,
nope,
you caught us. So next thing we see is Tyler playing jacks with Maggie. I used to love to play jacks. I loved jacks. So she's sitting there playing jacks with Maggie, and Mom points to them and is like, hey, have you started packing yet? And Tyler says, no, Maggie doesn't want to go. And I think because Susan is so like worked up from finding Dean and Sam, having broken into their grandma's room.
Yeah, they're probably like moving in the next couple of days or so.
She's like, I've had it. She's like, I need you to go unpack. Maggie isn't real. You're too old to have an imaginary friend.
Yeah. With a twist.
Dun, dun. Now, I knew there was something up with Maggie, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
I knew there was something up with her because there was a number of scenes where it's just Tyler and no Maggie, but it was never just Maggie, no Tyler.
Correct. But they did throw in Maggie in a couple of scenes. Like there's one right in the beginning when the boys come into the hotel room where Tyler and Maggie both come running through.
Yep.
And if you watch it, Tyler physically bumps into one of them. I can't remember which. Maggie swerves to kind of avoid them. She doesn't actually physically come into contact with them.
Yep. But we're made to believe.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of this.
Yeah.
Especially if you were watching this for the first time.
Yeah. So there's really no like going back and looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, we never see Maggie alone.
Mm-hmm.
We see Tyler alone,
Yes.
So, but still, okay. So Maggie imaginary, dun dun dun.
Yes.
The next thing we see is Susan's packing the car. She's got boxes, putting them in the trunk.
And it should be noted that Maggie, like right when Susan walks away and is just like, I'm done pretending about your imaginary friend, then Maggie looks at Tyler and says, I really don't like her. And then that's when the scene cuts off. No. Yes, Susan's packing the car. Tyler is, again, playing with the dollhouse. Playing with like this little wind-up toy that like moves around like a guy and a horse or something.
Yeah.
And while she's playing with it, the toy swings in the dollhouse playground starts swinging by themselves. And again, Tyler is just looking, not reacting. And then the real playground swings start moving.
Outside starts swinging.
And it just keeps going this way with each different part of the playground. Like it's the seesaw.
Like the teeter-totters. And then the merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm. And while Susan is distracted by this, she goes to look at the one thing. Right. Being like, okay, that's weird. But it is windy, so maybe it's just the wind doing
it's not uncommon to see the swing start swinging.
Yes.
But the teeter-totter start teetering.
Yeah.
And then the merry-go-round just starts spinning. It's got that creaky,
Yeah.
Around and around.
And did this for you echo a little bit that girl that you didn't like in No Exit who just like stood and watched things happen around her and didn't do much?
A little bit, because the car starts behind her and Susan doesn't hear it or doesn't react to it. I'm like, come on. It's one thing to see the swing. It's another thing to then see the teeter-totter, but to then still be standing there and just watching now the merry-go-round just spinning by itself. It's like, what else do you need to turn around and be like, I'm not going to stand
get the hell out of here. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I understand the initial like confusion of fight or flight takes a second.
Yeah.
Mine would have kicked in a little bit sooner than hers. And hers actually doesn't, because the car behind her starts and it starts rolling towards her and starts to pick up speed. And just before it hits her, Sam leaps out.
It chases her.
It chases her down the driveway?
Yes, like she does turn around at some point when it's already on the move, like towards her. And then she sees it and she's like, oh, and she kind of just starts walking like, okay, what's happening? Yeah. And then the car is like following her, and she's running, like she's running away from the car, and the car is trying to run her down. And then in time,
Sam leaps out.
Yes, and then Sam leaps out.
Sam leaps out and knocks her out of the way. And I just totally hit my microphone. Sorry. Very energetic. Knocks her clear of the path of the car. The car crashes into a tree. And she's like, what the hell is going on here?
Right. Yeah. Both boys usher her back into the house.
They're like, we gotta get inside.
Yep, get inside. Let's go. She's distressed. She needs a drink. Understandable.
They get to have the truth is out there talk.
Yes,
with
but
her.
But they don't have time to ease her into it. They're just like,
they're just like,
sorry, we don't have time.
Yeah, we thought it was hoodoo. We thought it was a spell, but it turns out what happened outside just now, that's a spirit.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? They're like, nope, you're just going to have to accept this. Your family's in danger. We have to get everybody out. You need to get the staff out.
Well,
you have to get
he asks her when Rose had a stroke, which was a month ago. He's like, okay, so about the same time that all of this death started happening. So it probably was hoodoo, but not for destruction, for protection. And now that she can't do it anymore, the spirit's on the loose.
The spirits are loose, right? So it was like a binding spell.
Yeah, kind of. And then he's like, we got to get everybody out, your helpers, your mother, your daughters, your staff. Which then he's like, wait, no, sorry, Maggie is imaginary. And they're like, oh, fuck, where's Tyler? You know?
Right. Well, here's a question. Here's a question. When she, she says, I only have one daughter, Dean says Tyler has a sister named Maggie. He says that. He doesn't say Maggie has a sister named Tyler. So it's just an interesting, convenient jump that he grabbed the rights,
Because Tyler's the only one he's seen.
No, because you just said even in the beginning the two
He wouldn't have
he
seen
didn't
her.
Seen her, Valerie.
He's only seen Tyler, who has talked about Maggie, who said Maggie's being mean to me.
Sammy, the things you see that I don't see.
Well, same.
Blows my mind. Well, and I wrote this down, so I thought about it. This was a thought process I had. Why did he say Tyler? And it's because he's never seen Maggie. Okay.
Well, I didn't even think about the order of things that he said, but it's because.
But you knew the answer. You knew the answer. Okay, so yes, she says Maggie's not real. They're like, fuck. Where's Tyler?
Yeah. He's like, aha. Oh shit.
Yeah. Now, cut to Maggie for the first time. We see her in the attic by herself. I mean, she's not by herself. She's without Tyler.
Yeah.
But she's standing in front of Grandma Rose, who's sitting in her wheelchair or rocking, whatever it is. I was like, is Maggie a giant? She looked to be like 10 feet tall, towering over.
She kind of did the way the camera
Grandma.
was angled that way.
But clearly she's just standing there, and they just wanted her to look imposing. But she's just standing in front of Grandma, and I don't want to say menacing, but menacing. She's talking to Grandma Rose, but we don't hear what Grandma's saying. But she's clearly having a conversation because she's responding. Maggie is responding. Okay, well, and so it's like this weird conversation, and then Tyler comes in. It's like, oh, Maggie, we can't be in here. You can't be upsetting Grandma Rose.
Yeah. So Maggie is threatening Grandma Rose. See, Tyler will stay with me forever, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Tyler, let's go play forever and ever and ever
and ever. Yeah, and poor Grandma has that same look. Like, she does look afraid, but that's the same look that she had on her face when Sam and Dean were in there.
Yeah. So the boys and Susan, they come into the playroom where the dolls have now been like thrown off of their shelves.
Smashed.
They're broken.
Yep.
No sign of Tyler. And then they start asking questions about Maggie. It's like, okay, when did she start seeing Maggie or like talking about Maggie?
Who could Maggie actually be?
Yeah, it's like, well, she started seeing her a month ago, which again lines up with Grandma Rose's stroke. It's like, did you know anybody named Maggie in real life? Oh, well, my mother did have a sister named Margaret who died here. She drowned in the pool when she was a little girl.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so then off they go. It's like, okay, we gotta go to the pool.
Yeah.
And then when we cut to the pool, the two little girls are like on the edge of this balcony that is over the pool. A super cool pool house, I have to say. I mean, the tragedy, the appending tragedy aside, the pool house is really cool.
Yeah, it was also used in an episode of Psych, FYI.
Oh, was it?
Yep. But yeah, so these two little girls, and poor Tyler is terrified. She may be standing on the outside of the rails, like overlooking the pool, but she's terrified. She doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But Maggie is there saying, no, you have to do this.
Yeah.
It won't hurt. You have to do this. And Tyler's like, but I can't swim. Maggie says, that's okay. You do this, and then we'll be together.
Yeah.
And we can play forever and ever. And she pushes her.
Yes, and it's right when like everybody reaches the pool house, but it's locked, and Tyler sees her mom. She screams for mommy, and then Maggie pushes her into the pool, and then even when she goes into the pool and she's kind of like tangled up in the plastic cover that that's on top of the pool, even when she does finally surface from the pool, Maggie pushes her head under.
Yep.
And says it'll all be over soon. It's okay. She's being very eerily calm about murdering this little girl.
Right. Well, she says earlier, she's like, because Tyler's kind of pleading, like, well, why don't you just leave with us?
Yeah.
Like before she got pushed, she's like, why don't you leave with mommy and me? Because then we can just be together and play. And Maggie's like, I can't leave. I can't ever leave this place, and now you can't leave me.
Yeah.
And is just very calmly holding this girl's head underwater now. And I'm like, oh,
yeah, I know.
Okay, this has changed.
yeah. So Sam stays up at the roof, and he's trying to break down this crazy enforced glass with a heavy urn that he's just like, I mean, he must have
smashed. He can't
smashed it like 20 times.
Yeah, just like, and Dean's on the backside trying to kick in a door, which normally Dean, the door kicker, would be able to kick in, but he can't kick this door. He's son of a bitch, he cannot break down this door.
Yeah. And then just in time, Maggie gets distracted by a voice in the ether that says, Margaret. And so then she kind of, disappears. Unfortunately, Tyler is now
at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
But Sam is able to, in that moment, smash through the glass door, and he runs, leaps like onto and over the railing, down a story into the pool, and fights his way through the same plastic pool covering that poor Tyler had to fight through, and is able to get to Tyler. At the same time, Dean is finally able to kick in that door, and he and Susan go running in. And Sam has a Dean moment.
Yes, that I said. He said he had a dead in the water moment.
Yep, where he's able to rise up out of the water with the body of this little girl in his arms, and is lays her down on the side of the pool, and she's not breathing.
There's a definite moment, like a few seconds there, where it's like, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
He was too late.
Too late again.
I know.
But luckily, she coughs and sputters, and she lives. I just want to do a shout out to the children actors on this show.
I know.
Once again, stellar performances by young professionals.
Yeah.
I love it. I love seeing children actors actually being kids, but acting,
Yeah.
So good job, you guys. And so we see again Valerie. Maggie's now back up in the attic again.
Yes.
Talking to Grandma Rose.
Yeah. They're definitely having a conversation. We cannot hear Grandma's responses. But it does sound like Maggie is making a deal with her. Okay, I'll leave them alone.
And she's like, and you'll do this for me? I'm assuming the conversation is because Maggie then says, you would do this for me? I thought you didn't like me.
Yeah.
I thought that, you stopped liking me all those years ago. Like, why did you keep me out? Why did you keep me out all those years?
We don't know, because the scene ends with Maggie just kind of caressing Grandma Rose's face.
Yeah.
And
says,
it leaves us there.
Little sister.
Yeah.
Calls her little sister.
And even right out of the pool, Sam and Dean ask Tyler, do you see Maggie anywhere? She doesn't. Maggie isn't around.
Yeah, Tyler says no.
And then they're back in the house. Sam and Dean are like, so she just stopped?
Yeah,
Is this done? What's going on? And Susan and Tyler are like, okay, we got to go get Grandma and get the hell out of here.
Yep.
But then Sam and Dean hear them scream. They go up there, and
Grandma's dead. Just slumped over in the chair. This time she actually is dead.
Yes. And not in a gruesome way. She's just, her throat isn't cut or anything like that. She's just...
but her eyes are open and, head tilted to the side.
Yeah.
So, our assumption is that assumption at first was Maggie killed her.
Yeah. So then it's either later in the day or the next day. I don't know. It's a different point in time. They are, saying their kind and loving goodbyes to Susan. She's, forever thankful, especially to Sam for saving her little girl's life.
And her life, by the way.
And her life. Yeah. Dean says, save the mom, save the kid. All right.
Check.
Good day for you. And Tyler definitely hasn't seen Maggie around. So they're kind of like, I guess it's over. I'm not sure how, but...
Yeah. I thought I was like, why didn't they,
investigate further? Make sure it's actually done?
Yeah, exactly. Because my thought is that Maggie killed the grandma, which means Maggie is still a marauding spirit. Right. So why not salt and burn the bones?
Right.
Why not? But they're like, no, all right, well, she's not here. I guess we can go.
Yeah, I guess maybe Rose had something to do with it. I don't know. Okay, bye. Moving on.
I hate to say it, but Dean had a Dean moment where he told Sam that he could have had a MILF moment
Yeah.
with Susan, which,
Yeah.
Dean. Because, a woman can't show her affection and
Mm-mm.
gratefulness
No.
without it being a doink moment. So Mom and Tyler get put into a big yellow taxi
Yeah.
and then drive off. I wouldn't have gotten back into the car that tried to run me
Oh,
down
no.
either.
Sam brings back the
He
promise.
doesn't let Dean off the hook. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, just because I saved these two people, yay for me and all, but that doesn't change anything. You still
Yeah.
made a promise.
Yeah. And Dean's like, but you were drunk. You don't know what we were talking about.
Uh-huh.
And Sam's like, yeah, but you weren't drunk and you made a promise.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I was like, oh, everything just came crashing down to earth again.
I know. And Dean doesn't even respond. Yep,
He's
just
like,
doesn't respond, starts the car, and then they go.
And off they go. But that's not the end of the episode.
No, the camera, I loved this last shot, is like it does a slow pan or like a move. First it does like a slow close-up into that photo that that Sherwin had placed on the center mantle of Rose and the nanny.
Yeah.
And then it goes like up through the hallway of the house, like it kind of goes up the stair. It kind of does, like, in Titanic when it like moved like down the stairs.
Yeah,
and all
it
that.
tracks all through the house like it's a person. Yeah.
Yes. And then we hear, before we see, two girls playing in the playroom.
Yep. We hear laughter.
Yes. Maggie has gained her forever playmate, which was Rose.
Right. So they're like skipping rope together and laughing, and now the ghosts are together in this house. So clearly Rose sacrificed herself for her sister's happiness.
Yeah. And to save her granddaughter too.
Right.
I think it was more to save her granddaughter. She's like, okay, you got to leave them alone. Fine. I'll be a ghost with you forever. Just
if it
don't
to make you happy, undo this. You got to let everything else go.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions because that's it. That's the end of the episode. The girls jumping rope in slow motion.
Forever and ever. Yeah.
Forever and ever. So I feel terrible for Rose.
Yeah.
So a handful of questions. One is, what happens when the plans
house gets
for the
demolished?
Yes. So there's that. Because the ghost can't leave. I mean, she says that I can't leave.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that an episode down the road? And then also, what made Rose initially as a young girl, like what made her decide to continue the hoodoo that the nanny was practicing? Or what made her do the hoodoo to block Maggie in the first place? Like, was Maggie, did Maggie actually drown, or was Maggie killed? Was she an avenging spirit? Like, what made her an evil? What made her something to be kept out, I guess, is the question.
Right.
I mean, she's since then murdered, 3 people in the house to try to keep, her playmates there. I don't know. It's like, what made Rose initially do the hoodoo to keep the spirit of dead Maggie out? Or was it just the fact that it was a spirit?
I think it could have just been a spirit, and maybe like later she learned that it was Maggie, or maybe she never knew it was Maggie until she had the stroke. And then
realized that she'd been keeping her sister out.
Yeah. But when a person first becomes a ghost, they're not automatically avenging, evil. Right? They're not automatically evil. Sometimes it's just unfinished business. Or they chose to stay behind. Right. Like Dean, he was offered that choice. It's like, okay, you can either stay and just like roam the halls, but eventually you'll become angry. Or you can come with me. So Maggie decided to stay and then eventually became evil. I would say that the nanny probably recognized that there was a spirit around. Maybe she recognized it was Maggie's spirit, but not knowing, maybe she didn't know how to necessarily kill the spirit like
and
the hunters do. Yeah, I was just like, okay, let's just protect the family. Let's protect you just in case Maggie comes for you, wanting a forever playmate in her life. And because Rose grew up with, what was her name, Marie? I think it was Marie.
Yes, Marie, the nanny.
Then she just kind of took on that practice once Marie moved on. That would be my hypothesis. I also hypothesized that it was they did a couple close-ups of that doll that was in Maggie's likeness, like the really twirly hair, that was probably her... would you call it a totem? Maybe the thing that the spirit is attaching itself onto?
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe when the hotel gets demolished, the doll gets broken up. Well, I guess you have to salt and burn it though in order for
Salt
it to.
and burn. Yeah.
So
We
I don't know.
They didn't go into any history of those dolls, other than like if you were a doll, chances are you were gonna die.
Yeah.
It just left me with some questions.
Oh, totally. I did those too. So it's like, oh no, they're gonna be happy until they demo this hotel.
Right.
I guess they'll just haunt the new place. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt bad for everybody. I felt bad for Rose, even though she was getting to jump rope with her sister. It was reluctantly,
Yeah.
and then I felt bad for Dean, who went from like jokingly MILF moment to, fuck.
Yeah.
Sam's put this back on me.
I feel like this storyline was part of a Goosebumps book. Did you read Goosebumps? I don't know. Maybe they were after your time.
They were after my time.
It felt like a Goosebumps story to me. Like, even though I didn't really remember this episode, the story was very similar, especially the part where Maggie was trying to convince Tyler to kill herself to stay with her forever.
Yeah.
I feel like that moment especially is in a Goosebumps story. Or in a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was on Nickelodeon. It was always set up, it was like teenagers around a campfire, like real teenagers telling ghost stories, and then that episode would be like that ghost story. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it'd be like you and I telling a ghost story, and then it would cut to like a play act of the ghost story. Yeah.
Yeah. I initially thought with the dolls and stuff that it was going to be like a possessed doll type of story, like it was going to be a Chucky type of thing. So I'm glad it wasn't, because it kind of kept me guessing a little bit. I wasn't, actively going, what's it going to be?
Yeah.
But I was thankful that it wasn't just like a possessed doll.
Yeah.
I was happy for that. I was like, okay, I don't hate dolls necessarily from this episode.
No, again, I think they did a really good job of keeping the audience on their toes of what the thing was going to be, especially since it just was surrounded by so much creep factor.
Yeah.
Yes, the dolls, but also just the old creepy motel, the floating wedding dress on the wall, the old as dirt butler,
Who drove a kick-ass truck, by the way.
I know.
I was like, that was a randomly placed vintage truck.
Yeah. But yeah, there was like a lot more humor, and I think it was just because of Drunk Sam. Whenever you put a drunk character into the mix, it just really like turns it for a loop, because then they could just be like, whoa, oh my God, I love you, man.
Well, especially given that Sam's been in such control of himself.
Yeah. That's a good
from
point.
The beginning. He's been the one who's been in control, and it's Dean who's the one who's been. Is Dean going to kill somebody? Is Dean going to, run off and be a hunter like Gordon?
Yeah.
You just never know. But Sam's been pretty even keel. We always know what Sam's going to be like.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Drunk moment. You're bossy.
Short.
All right, what's next?
The next episode is Night Shifter. I watched the teaser, and that's it. It's very similar to Skin, although not as dramatic.
Oh, okay. So Shifter, there's a shifter in it.
Yes,
Night
but it ends with Dean in a compromising position.
Oh.
Yes, but funnier. It's not murder.
Oh, okay.
It didn't leave me going like, oh no.
Oh, not again. We just saw this.
Yeah.
He's not standing over a body with a knife in his hand.
No, he's not. Whew. So we've wrapped up episode 11. We'll see you next week for episode 12, Night Shifter. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to rate us, subscribe to us, or follow us, whatever the platform's language is on that.
Just do it.
Also on our social media, we are at Salt and Burn This Pod on Instagram and Facebook, and at Salt and Burn This on Twitter. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.